Hello and welcome to How to Do That. This is a series all about Arduino, and the tagline of the channel is Let's Learn Together. So I've actually not started learning about Arduino yet. Thought it would be a good idea to do a video series showing the tutorials and how to work with what's in the starter kit. So this is the Arduino starter kit. You can get this off of arduino.cc, I believe it is. And it's actually a fairly well laid out kit. So as soon as you open it, I've actually already opened it, you have a book that you can pull out like this. It's actually a pretty thick book. There's a lot of tutorials. And you pull off the cardboard insert, and inside you would actually have a little bit more. I already started. But you have everything in a several boxes, very nicely laid out and sorted for you. And I believe it was inside of this box are some components for this, which is going to be the first thing that we put together. The book starts out with showing you how to set up your initial setup here. And to do so, you will actually need, I believe out of this box, let me get them here, some of these bolts and nuts. These will actually be used to affix this board to the plastic. So unfortunately, I already put together the plastic off camera before I realized I wanted to make this a tutorial series. It's fairly straightforward. So on the first few pages of the book, it takes you through all the components. We're not going to go over that. We're just going to go over them as we do the tutorials. But essentially it's on page 12 and 13. This yellow piece here, just the yellow piece here, starts out with all the pieces connected to it. And you just pop them out and assemble them the way that it shows you here. Now, one thing that I will say, a little bit of advice, is when you pop out the pieces, you'll notice that you have all these little flanges here. And that actually will not allow this board to seat properly. So what you want to do is you want to take snips or pliers or something and actually kind of twist them off or cut them out. So I'm going to do that now. So I originally tried the pliers, just kind of twisting them out, but that wasn't really working very well. But I have found that some wire cutters work pretty well. I'm hoping that I don't have to be completely flush here. So I'm just kind of nicking them like that. And if I have to, I might take a file or something to it. Okay, so I actually didn't finish cutting all of them. You can see I still left a few. But I cut the ones that were in the way. But I noticed, you see here, I noticed about right here, you can see that there is contact between the bottom of the chip, something coming out of the bottom of the chip, and the yellow part. And I'm not going to be able to cut anything without actually cutting into the yellow board itself in order to fix that. So this is really just a board to make it convenient to work on. It doesn't have to be structurally sound or anything. So I'm probably just going to stop there with cutting them. Obviously, when you're first punching out the parts, if you could actually, pull all of these out with the parts and then just have to use wire cutters to cut the little tabs off the parts, that would be way easier than trying to get in here and do these. So just a little tip for you there. All right, so next, I'm going to actually bolt down the Arduino chip to the plastic tray here. And to do that, like I said before, you should find in your starter kit somewhere 3 bolts and 3 nuts. That should be the only bolts and nuts that you find in your kit. All you have to do is place this with this slot is on the bottom to you, and then this has these big ports here. We'll talk about those later. Pointed to your left. Place them just like that, and align up the 3 bolt holes. And you want to thread in the bolts from the top down. Once you thread the bolts through, you just have to push them through. You don't have to actually rotate them like an actual screw or anything. You want to kind of hold the chip with your hand and turn it over, but not completely over. I'm actually doing it more for the camera than I would normally. But you just want to turn it around here and then start threading on the nuts. You want to just go ahead and thread them all on before you tighten up any of them, just to have them there. Sometimes things can fit a little bit weird if you don't put all of the nuts on first. That's just in general, not just this Arduino project. All right, so I'm gonna thread them on as much as I can by hand. I'm kind of holding the bolt on the other side. Again, this is not really for structural integrity, it's just to give you a nice working platform. And as we saw before, you know, there is a little bit of a gap because of what's underneath the microchip. I'm just going to very gently, and in fact, you don't even have to do this step, this is an optional step. I just don't want them to become loose over time because I plan on using this quite a lot. You want to very gently just hold with your finger. That'll prevent you from messing up too bad if you do mess up. And I'm just going to barely twist the nut like that. That's it. And the reason I'm just gonna hold it with my finger, I'm gonna hold the bolt with my finger, is that if I had a screwdriver in here and I had my pliers here and I torque it down too much, that screwdriver is not gonna allow the bolt to move at all. And I'm gonna end up cracking this chip here. You do not wanna do that. Once you crack a chip like this, you may as well throw it in the trash. So I just held it like that. In the event that I torqued too much, it would actually spin underneath my finger. But don't count on that, just torque it very loosely. I'm just gonna do this just enough, not even a quarter turn really. Do just enough to where it's kind of biting down on it. See, that's like an 1/8 of a turn. And that's it, so the board is now secure. This part is not connected to yours yet, it already is to mine. I couldn't undo it for the tutorial because there is a sticky strip on the back. But all you have to do, this comes in the box by itself. There's just a little bit of sticky adhesive on the back. You just peel it off and then place it down as centered as you can. I think in the book they actually have you do this part first. I'm not really for sure, but I would recommend doing this first just because that's what is going to dictate the spacing of this. Otherwise you may stick this down and find that it's colliding with this once you bolt it down. So you want to bolt this down first and then move on to this. The other thing that I will note, the book does not tell you this, but if you look on in the book, you'll realize that the breadboard and all the tutorial pictures in the book has this positive side closest to this chip, okay? If you did it the other way, the negative side would be closest to the chip. And that's not an issue, like it's gonna work no matter what. But if you want this to align as perfectly as possible with the pictures in the book, you're gonna want to orient your breadboard to where the positive side is toward your chip. So once you've done that, you've got all your footers on if you were following the instructions. That's it, you're now ready to download the software and then start making projects. And speaking of downloading software, we're actually going to do that right now for both Windows and Mac. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to download the software. So to do that, we're going to go to arduino.cc/windows. And a little bit down on the page, you'll see where it says get the latest version from the download page. Just click on download page. And if we scroll down just a little bit, we're gonna see a Windows installer and Windows zip file for non-admin install. What this means is that if you do not have administrative access to your computer, you will want to select this option. If you do have administrative access to your computer, you want to select this option. This option is just a little bit easier. This option just has an extra step or so. Just to show the more complicated example, I'm going to download the zip file for a non-admin install. Here it brings you to a window that you can donate to Arduino for all the great things that they do. You can either contribute and download, or you can just hit just download. So once you've hit download, your file will download, your zip file actually, and you can either click on it right there, but I just kind of want to show you inside my downloads folder. Okay, so after your file is downloaded, here it is inside of my downloads folder. You'll notice that this is a zip file, and we can't actually really work with this. We have to extract everything within the folder in order to work with it. So we're going to right click on it, go to extract all, and I'm then going to pick a folder to put it in. I'm actually going to put this in my documents folder because the program that we will be running will be inside of this folder. There's no real install, so to speak, at least if you're using zip file, not the installer. So I'm going to actually browse to my documents. I've actually already extracted once before, but I would say, you know, Arduino extract. Yes, I know it does not exist. That is the point. Arduino extract. Okay, and that's where I'm going to extract everything to, and I'm going to click extract. This process will take several minutes, so just be patient. Okay, so once everything is extracted, you can go into the folder that you made and just click through until you get to this folder here. Now, what we'll notice is that there is an Arduino application file. It is not Arduino debug, it's Arduino application. That's all it should say. Yours may also say arduino.exe if you have file suffixes turned on your computer. But for most people, it will say Arduino and then application for the file type. So I'm actually not going to click on that just yet because I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to go to Documents, click through a couple folders, and then click on this application here every time I want to run the application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it, and there should be a Send To menu item, and then Desktop. Now, they didn't actually send it anywhere, as you can see, but if I close off of these windows, we will see here on my desktop an Arduino shortcut. So now I can always just double click that on the desktop and get right into the IDE whenever I feel like it. So for this, I'm just gonna hit cancel because we actually don't need to really be on the network for programming our Arduino. We're just gonna be working locally. So I'm just gonna hit cancel on that. It may actually pull that up every time you open it. But if so, you can just hit cancel every time. So here we are in our IDE, and at this point we want to actually make sure that we can power and communicate the Arduino board. So at this point we're going to plug in the board. So this is the USB cable kit, and I'm just going to open that up. And then this, really it can only go in one place, so it's going to go in right here. Okay, so now I am all hooked up, and you can see some lights on. And this is a good thing because the lights mean there is power getting to the board from your computer. And we'll talk about what the lights mean later. But the thing to note here is that this port you're only ever going to use for when you're connected up to your computer, you're writing code, you're uploading, you're testing. But when you're actually deploying this, whatever your project may be, into the real world, you'll actually want to use this port here. This is strictly a power port, and that can connect to a battery pack, a wall outlet, something like that. But for all of these tutorials, for the most part, I believe, we're only going to be using this port right here. So if at this point you've plugged in and you don't see any lights, that is a problem. So you'll want to go back and make sure you didn't miss a step. Okay, so I waited just for about 30 seconds or so just to make sure everything was set up properly. I didn't get a notification that it was, but let's test and see if it was. We're gonna go up here to Tools, and then we're going to go down to Board. Yours may not have Arduino Uno selected here. Mine was automatic. That's actually a good indicator that everything was set up correctly. But you could also just go over here and click Arduino Uno, and that is the board that is included with your starter kit, is the Arduino Uno. So make sure that is selected, and then next we're going to go to Tools and Port, and as you can see here it says COM6 Arduino Uno. You will not always get it saying Arduino Uno here. Usually it will. If so, it's pretty obvious which one you should select. But if not, it's typically the highest numbered port. So you see this is a number 6 versus 5 or 4. It's typically the highest number, and if that's not working out for you, what you can do is you can view this list, write these down, and then unplug your Arduino from your computer, and then deselect the list, come back to it, and then whichever option is not there anymore, you'll know that that is the option you should select. So you can plug your Arduino back in and then select that option. So for installation on a Mac, you need to go to arduino.cc/Mac. And once that loads, you will see here a table of contents. It says download the Arduino software. So we're going to click that, and then get the latest version from the download page. We're going to click that. If I scroll down, it says download the Arduino IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, and that is what we're going to be doing all of the coding in. So we see here we have Windows installer and we have Mac installer. Notice it says 10.10 or newer, so make sure that you do have at least that version of Mac before you continue. You can do that by going up to the Apple, About This Mac, and seeing here we have version 10.15. You can ignore the end dot there. We have version 10.15, which is obviously a greater number than 10.10. So we are good to go with downloading the software, so we're going to click that. Here you can donate to the Arduino company here, or you can just hit just download. Do you want to allow downloads? Yes, I do. So it's going to download down here. It'll take just a few seconds here. Okay, so you can either go to your downloads down here, click that, and then click on the file we just downloaded, or you can go to Finder, find Downloads, and right there is the file that we downloaded. Now notice that this is an application. That is because I downloaded it through Safari. Safari will automatically unzip a zip file, because we actually downloaded a zip file, but it automatically unzipped it. If I downloaded this in Chrome or Firefox or something else, I would actually have a zip file here. All I'd have to do is double click it, and then it would actually unzip, and then it would show you this application file here. So once you've gotten to that point, double click. It's loading down here. A window pops up and says, "This is an app downloaded from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it?" We're going to say open, because obviously we trust it. If this window comes up and only gives you the option to cancel or close, you can press and hold the control button and then click on the app, and then in the menu select open. And after it runs through its initialization, it should pop up a window like this. Now at this point, we're actually going to quit out, and we're going to drag this application to our applications folder or wherever else you want. You could have actually done this at the beginning before we double clicked on it, but I always like to verify that things are working in my downloads folder. It's just part of my workflow. So it's going to require an administrator name and password in order to move it to the applications folder. If you do not have administrative access to your computer, so maybe this is your parent's computer or something, or a school computer, you don't have to drag this to your applications folder in order to use it. I would recommend at that point dragging it to your documents folder. I'm actually going to do that just to show as an example that you are able to do that. So here we are. Right there it is in my documents. So I'm going to double click that, and it's going to boot up once again. And we're back to the window that we saw. Now this is actually, let me just make my window a bit bigger here. So this is the coding window. This is where we're going to be writing all of our programs, loading programs, uploading programs to the board that we affixed to the yellow piece of plastic previously in this tutorial. All we have to do now is plug in the board. So this is the USB cable kit, and I'm just going to open that up, and then you're going to immediately figure out that these are only USB 2.0 and your Mac only has USB 3.0. So one second while I get a converter. USB 3.0. Well, actually this is USB-C even. So if you have something like this, you should have had a converter come with your computer. So here is what the converter for a Mac looks like, but this has the USB-C that plugs into the Mac, and this is the USB 2.0 that will plug into the cable that came with your starter kit. And then this really it can only go in one place. So it's gonna go in right here. Okay, so now I am all hooked up and you can see some lights on. And this is a good thing because the lights mean there is power getting to the board from your computer. And we'll talk about what the lights mean later. But the thing to note here is that this port you're only ever going to use for when you're connected up to your computer, you're writing code, you're uploading, you're testing. But when you're actually deploying this, whatever your project may be, into the real world, you'll actually want to use this port here. This is strictly a power port, and that can connect to a battery pack, a wall outlet, something like that. But for all of these tutorials, for the most part, I believe, we're only going to be using this port right here. So if at this point you've plugged in and you don't see any lights, that is a problem. So you'll want to go back and make sure you didn't miss a step. Now at this point, after you've plugged in your board, you may have a pop-up appear somewhere through here on your screen. That will be a box asking you to open System Preferences. Now, not every Mac will do this, just certain versions of a Mac, but all it's asking for is to be able to do a network interface with your Arduino chip. And it's really easy. You just hit open on that dialog box. It will actually open your system preferences. So it'll open up this window here. You want to find network, and one of these here will correspond to your Arduino chip. You'll want to click on that and just hit allow. Okay, so back in our Arduino IDE, we are going to now test that we actually have communication between the computer and the board. Right now we know that we have power, but we don't know that we can actually upload things and run things with our chipset. So what we're going to do is we are going to first make sure it's in the language we expect. So obviously everything looks like it's in English here. If not, there is a URL you can go to in order to make it in your language. You can go to arduino.cc /IDE, that's the Integrated Development Environment, and there should be something called language support on that page, and it will show you how to convert this into the language that you're expecting. In my case, I don't need to do that. It came already in English. So I'm now going to navigate to an example sketch, and that's actually what these programs are called. They're called sketches for Arduinos, and it's just a program, it's just a script. If you prefer that terminology. But what we're going to do is we're going to try and upload a sample sketch to the Arduino chip. And to do that, we're going to go to File, Examples, and we're going to go to 01, which is actually the first tutorial, but this is just for testing to see if we can communicate. And then we're going to select Blink. So this all it's going to do is make an LED on the board blink a lot, and that's going to tell us that we actually were able to upload a program to the board. So we'll get into what all this type of code means in the next video. But for now, all we're going to do is we're actually going to select our board that we're connected to, and so we're going to go to Tools, Board. And we've already got the Arduino Uno selected. And that is the name of the board that comes with the starter kit, is an Arduino Uno. So just make sure that that is in fact selected. After you make sure that that is selected, you'll want to go to Tools again, Port, and then one of these ports should correspond to your Arduino. In my case, it's actually labeled, and hopefully in yours it is as well. If it's not, just start selecting ports and trying to upload to it. You won't hurt anything. And just find the port that the Arduino is connected to, and then from that point forward you'll know what the port name is that corresponds to your Arduino. Something to note, especially for Windows users, I don't know about Linux, but the actual USB port you connect to matters with what your port name is going to be. So if you later on start having trouble with communication and you have to keep going back to this step and selecting new ports, just make sure that you're plugging in on your computer the same port every time, and that should solve that issue. If you can't guess right off what the correct port is, a little trick you can do is actually unplugging the board from your computer and then, you know, making the window go away and then coming back into the window. And the one that's no longer there anymore is the port that your Arduino was connected to. So now you can plug your Arduino back in and you'll know which port to select. So for my case, I'm going to select this option here. Okay, so now that we have connected up to our board and to the correct port, we are going to upload this example program. So I'm gonna hit the upload button, and you see down here it said uploading and then done uploading. It's a very simple program, so it doesn't take very long to upload. So if we look here at our chip, the purpose of that program was to make this light right here blink. And it is blinking, so everything must be working correctly, right? Well, yes and no. It could have actually been that the program is already uploaded on this chipset. In fact, if you look at a previous clip on this tutorial, this light was already blinking. So how do we know that we made that light blink? Well, we're gonna go back to our computer here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change these numbers right here in parentheses. This number corresponds to how long the LED is going to stay on, and this number corresponds to how long the LED will stay off. These are in milliseconds, so they were 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. I'm gonna change the 1,000 to a 100. So we should actually see a much faster blinking. So I'm gonna hit upload again. I'm waiting for it to say done uploading down here. It does. And now if I look at the board, you see how much faster that light is blinking? We actually just did that by uploading a program to this chip. So now we know that we are in fact not only supplying power to the chip, but we are able to communicate with the chip. So at that point, your initial setup is done. We are actually ready to get into the tutorials and start making things. So thank you for watching the video. Join us next time on how to do that for tutorial number 1 in the starter kit. See you there.